couple of weeks ago, I stumbled upon this video of an endurance charge stacking Cyclone Juggernaut. So in typical low attention fashion, I scrolled down and immediately started looking at the comments, where I found this gem. So given my constant in-game poverty, I shelved this, didn't really revisit the video until much later. And then on deeper examination of the build, I thought that it features a pretty interesting offensive skill setup. While Cyclone linked with Shockwave is responsible for the primary clear and about a third of the damage, the majority of the single target is actually automated in a General's Cry setup linked with Tectonic Slam of Cataclysm. In my much cheaper character that I'm playing right now, I decide to use Ground Slam of Earthshaking for its generically high multiplier since I'm not stacking endurance charges. Also, on this build I noted that Corpse Walker, the boots, were almost entirely unnecessary. While clearing, monsters, well, they die, so you're pretty much always able to generate kind of the clones from those bodies anyway. And then on bosses, I just self-cast Desecrate at the start. The thing about General's Cry is that it doesn't actually consume corpses, it just simply needs them nearby for clone summoning and power calculations. So for my build, the core multipliers I use to power the build's offensive battery include a really high fizz DPS mace, which I recommed, and then put on the pseudo Doomfletch enchant from runecrafting, alt ailment scaling through massive hits with Secrets of Suffering, Ashes of the Stars for some insane benefits from gem quality, and a really efficient set of gems that pair well with that, and then a ton of really broken things that only Scion can provide. So let's get straight into the details of this build and start with the Ascendancy. First things first, I want to talk about the Ascendancy itself, the Ascendancy tree. And the nice thing about Scion is that you can mix and match Forbidden Jewels however you see fit, because it doesn't really matter, so it's always relatively cheap to get a Forbidden set. In this case, I'm actually playing with the Warden Forbidden set. It's probably the most important Ascendancy node on this. It gives me about 70% more damage from having that extra tincture and the pen, and obviously 20% suppress is just really high value, especially on a two-hander build that's running a lot of unique items. The other two Ascendancies I've opted for are Slayer and Sabo. I thought Jug was an okay option as well, and maybe Occultist if you want to go for a different rank, but Sabo is actually really great for this because I'm playing General's Cry and I'm playing Shockwave, primarily for my Cyclone. And both those things benefit from CDR, both those things are area damage. I love to have the increased AoE, and Blind is also helpful kind of defensively, and also just in case you run maps with like less accuracy, Blind will actually help you hit the monster. Slayer is also really great, it gives me Culling Strike that I otherwise don't have, even more AoE while clearing, Fizz Reflect Immunity, which is not necessary because I'm playing Rim Sorrows, and then Overleech on Slayer is just really comfortable to have. I just think super great QOL Ascendancy choice. But the best part of Scion is this, and this is super old tech apparently, but it's basically using Lethal Pride with two Transcendent Fleshes. A lot of times you'll see Timeless Jewels paired with Unnatural Instinct here, Might of the Meek, that sort of thing. But this combination with two Transcendent Fleshes, you see I'm at 68 mil combined DPS. I go down to 45, so each of these jewel sets is worth roughly in the range of like 22 on average percent more damage, and that's really great. Also gives you a lot of strength, which you do need because you're playing Karui Maul. And there's other great things that this Lethal Pride can provide. I'm taking, I think, I have the Rage on hit from this, and then you also get double damage. Fire Rest, Strength is also good, but a lot of great things here, and I just think it's super efficient to go for. I got this Watchers over here, which isn't really that important. And then because I'm not playing Natural Instinct over here, I play it over here instead. And a Natural Instinct allows you to allocate, or I guess get benefit from nodes that aren't allocated. Right? But then you can also tattoo those nodes. So what I've done is I've tattooed out more movement speed. Because for a Cyclone build, you just need a lot of movement speed to feel good. Also have Chaos Res here, and honestly things like Charge Duration, it's all pretty good. It feels really great to have the accuracy, the life, just a really great Unnatural Instinct location. So I liked that. Light of Meaning, I didn't think this would be good because I'm playing with so much increased damage on my tree already, but it turns out this is about 20-ish% more damage as well, just a fizz damage Light of Meaning. This was super cheap to go for, so that was really cool as well, and because I'm, tri-elemental, but it's all converted damage from this, the increased fizz damage is just going to scale everything at the same time. Last Jewels, I mentioned the Forbidden set, and then Interrogation with Secrets of Suffering. So this is really powerful in my build specifically because the hits are so big from Shockwave, and probably from my General's Cry clones as well. I think they're probably pretty big. The Shockwave average hit is 6 mil, and the Ground Summon Earthshaking is like 9 million. So like the alt ailments that you're applying are just absolutely huge. You're pretty much on non-Uber content or like non 100% delirious content, you're always hitting Brittle, Scorch, and Sap cap, but definitely always Brittle cap. And even on Ubers, it's really solid. Had no problem doing those bosses. I think that's it as far as jewels go. I guess there is also the large cluster to mention. It's a really painful large cluster to do. I hit it in like Well, I hit this really quickly because I just chaos spammed it. But you can also reforge attack, reforge speed, but basically it's getting Overlord as one of the front nodes and then having something else as one of the back nodes. That's that. So that's all the jewels. The rest of the tree is... I went for a right-sided tree because I want to have suppression. If you don't care about suppression, you can play a left-sided tree. And you can go for things like Warcry, Rage Generation, Max Res over here. You can also path over to Deep Breaths. Originally, I was going to take this cluster through using a Wormhole Jewel, like the Steel Mage Jewel, with Eternal Youth. And I was going to put that here. But I decided to opt for the Watcher's Eye instead because I just wanted to have a bit more Chaos Res than I'm doing T17 content. The skill gem setup is fairly straightforward. I mean, you can just look at it, but I guess I'll go over it. Precision and Arrogance. I mean, it's a pretty actually lacking build, especially when you're playing two-handers. Even with the right side, I still like to have this. I run a level 1 Frostblink because I want to be fully Reflected Mean as a mapping. Punishment is my only self-casted curse. I use this on some bosses. Flesh and Stone, I always stay in Sand Stance because I feel like the damage is enough, so I just want to have good defenses. And then Ass Mark on hit, this gives you your Power Charge Generation from Gem Quality, a self-cast Escalate over here. Cyclone and its links, I love Infused Channeling. They changed this recently, it's just generic 10% DR. And because my Cyclone with Ashes and the Gem Quality only has 5% less move speed, I'm pretty much always channeling. Purity Elements, Skitterbots. Originally, I was actually playing Purity of Elements, and Skitterbots was linked to Unbound Ailments and Bone Chill, and Flesh and Stone was actually Blood and Sand. I think this all combined gave me about like 25-ish% more damage, which was really cool, but not exactly necessary. Warbanner is free. When you place it, just another big burst of damage that you can get if your Valor's all stacked up, another 25% more damage with, the aura effect, and it lasts long enough that you should be killing most things in there. I like to play Self-Cast Immortal Call. There's ways to open up more gem flexibility on this character. I'm not interested in doing that though. I prefer the Self-Cast IFC. Especially once you play the game more, you just have a sort of instinct for when you might want to press that button. Like you see a pack of porcupines. And then on my gloves, this is the GC setup. And then on my gloves, I'm using a double Corrupted Rimstar with 2 curses. I use defensive curses. You could play Ellie Weak. You could play, I don't know, something else as well. But I like to have these 2 defensive curses. Rimstar happens to be a really cheap pair of gloves, so I like that. I will mention that there's no defensive auras on this. The weakest part of this build is that it has no avoidance and has bad fizz mitigation. My max hit without IC down and everything is somewhere around 20k max fizz, so it's not great. The max LE is actually okay. It feels for the most part fine. And while mapping, I actually run a Jade Flask, and honestly, it makes a pretty big difference. To go from like 1k evasion to like 7,000, it's a pretty big difference. But honestly, being able to play Cyclone, I forgot how it feels to like constantly be moving all the time that you're playing, so that felt really OP. I think the gear on this is really interesting and super efficient. Firstly, the weapon is actually really easy. You just alt spam bases for T1 prefix, because you don't actually care about attack speed. You do the whole recomp thing, so you take 2 T1s, smash them together, 2 other T1s, smash them together, and you take those 2 double T1s, and you smash them together and hope that they keep all 3 mods. It's 1 in 3 each time. You can also do it the other way, which is what I did, which is using exclusive mods. If you don't know how to do it by now, I mean, it sucks, I guess. I don't really know. I just look up the guide. Helmet. Int, Accuracy, Chaos Res. Really good utility helmet. I managed to also get +2 AoE and get AoE and then also strike range, which does scale at the Cyclone strike range. So this helmet was really cool to get. But the biggest reason why I'm using a helmet like this is because I have Utila's Hunger. And so when I was building this character, originally it was double taming. I saw the ashes. I saw that gloves were kind of whatever. And I started realizing maybe I just skip life on gear entirely. I thought about going as a Bakwa Doppelganger. I thought about playing Lightning Coil, but at the end of the day, I think Utila's ended up being the strongest kind of pound for pound chest I could use in terms of being relatively efficient, and then still maybe getting different prefixes on my other gear. I really like this. I think it's an underused chest in general, especially in softcore. Rimstar I already mentioned. The conversion on this is crazy. I mean, just look at how much damage it gives you, right? Boots, same deal. Don't need life, so then I get to have really great suffixes for super cheap, and then I just craft it on move speed. Ashes, this amulet is crazy, okay? It gives 41% more damage, but it also gives you Cyclone movement speed. And that's pretty much, if this didn't give the Cyclone move speed, I think about things like Utmost or, I don't know, maybe even Defiance of Destiny. But because this gives movement speed for Cyclone, I'm just really want to be using this, and it's an insane amount of damage. Taming for this build, not a life ring, really great generic stats. I'm playing 5 ailments because I'm playing Scorch, Brittle Sap, and then I have Skitterbots applying both Shock and Chill. So taming gets a lot of value, and it's really easy to set up. Anathema, it's my favorite ring in the game. I mean, I'm a crit build. I have these double Corrupted Rimstars. Why not play Anathema as well? And then finally for the belt, this was, I think, essence spam. This is either strength essences or chaos essences until I hit some other stuff. I I mean, they're kind of expensive right now, but it is what it is. And then it was a Redeemer Slam on Prefix and then a Benchcraft for Wed. So pretty easy to do as well. And then finally just a Jewel for phasing, Chaos Res. Honestly, this Jewel sucks. I should really replace it. You don't really need phasing because when you're playing Cyclone, you kind of just go through everything anyway. And the biggest thing about this build, I mentioned the tinctures earlier, but this time it goes from 30 million to 67 mil. And you can say like, yeah, when my conditionals are down, my damage is really bad. And that's how this plays. It has enough damage to clear T17s with all my conditionals down. No problem. But then why do you need like unconditional damage? I can just play it with a burst window, pop both my tinctures, drop my war banner, and watch a boss die in a couple of seconds every single time, right? So these two tinctures are really great. One gives a ton of pen, wed, the other one gives a ton of crit multi. I prefer to have reduced burn rate for things that are tankier. And I'm also taking some stuff for like tincture stuff over here. I'm taking this wheel. I'm also taking this one so for the mastery. The first 6 have no effect because it's a relatively low mana build and a relatively low mana regen build as well. But yeah, I mean, this is the build. I thought it was super, super easy to set up. Pretty efficient. It felt really good. I mean, honestly, if I was gonna league start right now and I hadn't played the league at all and I knew this offensive setup existed, I definitely would have league started with this offensive setup. I've POB'd out like Slayer SF starts, SFHC starts, SFHC starts on Juggernaut, and I just think that the numbers for General's Cry as a supplement to Cyclone Shockwave are so great. Like, it's just a fantastic step to go for. And if you want to play a Cyclone league starter, I think this is how it should be going forward.